So if the presenters are ready to begin, I'll do the introductions. Once again, welcome to TPL Thursdays, our weekly webinar series focusing on teacher professional learning and provided by the Education Authority Teacher Professional Learning team. If anyone is new to this, please have a think about any sessions that you would like us to cover in the future. I will put a link in the chat during this, and any session you would like to see us cover, especially for next year. We have just released our sessions for the rest of this school year, but we're looking already for September, October sessions to book those in. A little bit of housekeeping first. You will notice that your Teams is on mute and the cameras are off. This is simply because of the sheer numbers we get to these sessions. If at any stage you notice that the slides aren't changing for you, or there's a little bit of a malfunction with the delivery, please log out and log back in again. That usually solves any problems that we do have. If you have any questions during the session, we would appreciate if you put them into the chat section at the side. We use that quite a lot. And the presenters will then look at that at the end, and I will give them those questions, and we'll have a little Q&A session built in towards the end of this. We also use the hashtag TPL Thursdays. I will put that in the chat to continue the conversation after this, and we have found that that is very effective on Twitter for bringing like-minded professionals together. So that's really something that we're looking to develop as well. This week's session is a special session. This was meant to be something else, which we've pushed back until next week, but we thought it was just such a good opportunity that we couldn't not share it. And it really fits in with everything we're trying to do as a teacher professional learning team and as an authority. So today's session is from the Chartered College of Teaching, and it's an information session for fully funded places on the Certificate of Evidence Informed Practice course. And with that comes a 2-year membership of the Chartered College. The session will be introduced by Mary Lowry, who is the head of our school improvement at EA, and she is responsible for the delivery of the A Fair Start document. So if you haven't read it, it really is worth reading. Mary will also be joined with contributors from Lindsay Murray, who is from Slemish College, and Kat Scott, who is from the Chartered College of Teaching. So if I can hand over to you now, Mary, are you ready to go?
Good afternoon, everyone. Am I visible on screen there?
You are to me, Mary, yes.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm not visible to myself, so it's a wee bit confusing. Thank you very much indeed, everybody, for your time this afternoon, and we will try to keep it sharp. Thanks again also to Jarlath for rescheduling his plans for this afternoon to give us this opportunity. I'm delighted to welcome Kat once again, Kat Scott from the Chartered College of Teaching. In EA at the minute, you'll have noticed as time has gone on through this session, for example, the TPL Thursdays, that we are trying across our teams in TPL leadership and governance and in school improvement to work towards providing a range of professional learning opportunities for teachers and school leaders at various stages in their careers, and in a range of formats that will work with individual people's circumstances also. So we're trying to be flexible in that respect. We've begun to explore and to establish relationships with highly regarded professional partners across the UK and wider to allow us to do this. And we're absolutely thrilled to be working in partnership with the Chartered College of Teaching. We have a number of colleagues who are members and fellows of the Chartered College. I was really delighted to get my fellowship certificate 3 years ago, and it's proudly displayed. So we've all benefited, those of us who are associated with the college have benefited from the networking, the resources, and in particular the Impact Journal, which we receive twice yearly. So I am going to send a big warm Northern Irish welcome to Kat and hand over to her, and then we will also hear from Lindsay from Slemish College, who's very kindly once again given her time to talk about her experiences of the Certificate in Evidence Informed Practice. So thank you very much for your time, and thank you, Kat.
Thank you, Mary, for that fantastic introduction. Really a pleasure to have the chance to talk to you all today. Always privileged to have the chance to speak to teachers who I know will have had a very, very busy day and lots of other things drawing on your time. So a real pleasure to have the chance to talk to you today. I'm Director of Education and Research at the Chartered College of Teaching, which is the professional body for teachers. We work with teachers all across the UK and around the world to support them in their professional learning. And we are really pleased to be partnering with the Education Authority to provide access to one of our particular programmes that we thought would be of real interest to teachers and school leaders in Northern Ireland. And I'm going to give you a very brief introduction to that before you hear from someone who's actually done the programme. The programme is called the Chartered College of Teaching Certificate in Evidence-Informed Practice, as the name suggests. Engaging in evidence-informed practice, and you can achieve a certificate to recognise the work that you've done in that area. It really links into a number of different aspects of the learning that a number of different aspects of sort of programs in Northern Ireland, focus in Northern Ireland. You can see a couple of examples there, learning leaders and how it links into a fair start. And that's how we started working with Mary and with EANI to look at how we could link in and support the kind of goals that you have in Northern Ireland. So the way that the certificate works is that it brings in this whole introduction to the idea of evidence-informed practice. Crucially, evidence-informed practice is not just about looking at research, academic research, and saying, oh, great, let's do that. It's much more complex than that. And the way that we define evidence-informed practice is about three different things coming together. One of those absolutely is about bringing, looking at the best available evidence from research that might have been conducted in a whole range of different places. But it's bringing that together with your expertise, experience, and professional judgment as teachers, you making decisions about what actually from that research might or might not be applicable. Crucially, in the context in which you're working, we know that it's not always easy to just translate research from one place to another. Oh, sorry, the slide's not moving. Let me just try something. Is that working now?
I moved them on, Kat, so they should be on slide 5.
Yeah, perfect. Sorry, that's my fault.
You've taken control now, so you should be able to move them. But if you have a problem, just say next slide, please, and we'll do a Jonathan Van Tam, and we work it like that.
Brilliant, thank you. Great, yeah. So luckily we're all in the same place, thanks to Jarlath being very on top of things. Yeah, so we've got the kind of context question, because we know that research evidence doesn't just immediately translate from one place to another. A lot of research might be conducted in a very specific setting that doesn't necessarily apply to yours. So we're really focused on bringing these three elements together when we talk about evidence-informed practice, and using research to build and inform you and your teacher expertise. To give a little bit of information about how the course itself works, there are essentially 3 sections to the course, which is all delivered online. It is a self-paced program. You can make decisions about when you want to engage in the different aspects of it, but we have just given some suggestions of an idea here of the sort of time frame you might want to work through it on. The very first section of the course is all about learning how to critically engage with research. So that means identifying how we can critically evaluate research. It means looking at some of the myths and misconceptions about education that have maybe emerged over time. We'll probably all be familiar with some of the neuromyths that have developed that mean that the general population, but also teachers in some cases, have been led to think certain things about how the brain works, which maybe are not always accurate. We look at those, we look at how those have developed, and we look at how we can make sure that research findings in future are suitably critiqued to make sure that we're making good decisions about what we do. There's about 3 hours worth of learning time there. Once we've looked at that kind of level of work, we then go into looking in detail at a few key areas of research evidence. You will select which of those you particularly want to focus on. There's about 10 different areas there. We normally suggest people pick a couple to look at. Those cover all sorts of areas about how students learn, about cognitive science, about teacher development as well, and pedagogy. We've also added an extra section in which looks at immersive education as something that's obviously really important. So lots of different topics that you can choose to look at depending on where you want to focus, and each of those has a written summary and then a wider reading list, and you're encouraged to go and explore the research in those areas and apply what you've learned in the first section to critically evaluate that research and understand what might apply for you. Finally, then, once you've completed those sections, which we've loosely suggested you might want to try and look at doing by the end of June, perhaps, that's about 7 hours worth of learning in total. So if you do sort of half an hour in a week, that would be quite achievable. And then the third section is the sort of formal assessment section. I hesitate to say that because I think that makes it sometimes sound a bit more onerous than it is. Actually, it's in many cases the section that people enjoy most, really getting their teeth into. And in the third section, you select a topic that you want to focus on for your assessment from a list of 4, which I'll show you in a moment. And you'll do some further learning around that topic. We have video interviews with experts who really know that topic and the research in that area inside out. They'll introduce you to some of that. We have wider reading lists that you can use to explore that topic, and you'll go and do your own exploration of research literature that's relevant to your context as well. And once you've done that, you then craft a written response to a sort of challenging debate question, which is then shared, and you'll get some feedback on that, and that allows you to then kind of submit a final response. Looking at that in a little more detail, the whole learning program is delivered via our learning platform, MyPD, so you can access it whenever you want to. It's really designed to be convenient for you. It has a whole range of different features. There'll be some reading, some videos you'll watch. There are polls that you'll undertake to see what other people think, and there are chances for you to discuss your learning with other candidates from the group who are working through it at the same sort of time as you. There are a really huge range of contributions to the course, again, in all sorts of different formats. And those are from teachers, from academics, from other people working in education all across the globe. And that's really important. It's about reflecting and building on our community and hearing different voices and different views. The assessment is often a thing that people want to hear a little bit more about. So that's something that I'm just going to share a tiny bit more about. There are 4 topics that you can choose from in order to sort of focus on for your assessment. We call it a debate, but it is really a sort of written piece that you put together. But we call it a debate because the questions are really supposed to be quite open and quite broad to make you think and reflect on your experiences and not to have a simple single answer. You can see the 4 topics on screen now. Is technology really the future for education? How useful is cognitive science for classroom practice? Does group work ever work? And can instructional coaching be utilised to develop teachers at all career stages? So depending on your role, your particular interest, you would pick from those. We do have some people who actually read and engage in the videos for all of those because they find that useful to help inform their practice. But you'll pick one ultimately to do your final assessment on. Within each of those, you'll get a recorded video presentation, like I mentioned, from a subject expert, people like Paul Kirshner in one case, who will share their experience and their knowledge of the research based on those to start you off. You'll then go through a wider reading list to deepen your understanding. You'll have a chance to discuss the topic with others. This chance of sort of discussing with the community is really important as part of the course. And you're then able to submit your initial response in order to access some sort of questions. If you want to get feedback, that's a totally optional step. So we try to give people the opportunity to get some feedback. There's then a list of questions you can draw from, which will allow you to reflect a bit on the work that you have done and respond to those questions. And you finally submit your written work with your response to those questions, also in written format. And that is then assessed. And if you're successful, you'll receive the certificate in evidence-informed practice. If you're not, you'll get some feedback, which will allow you to then make some amends to that piece of work and submit it again. The overall written response is 1,250 words plus 1 or 2 question responses, which are sort of around 250 words in total. So it's about 1,500 words in total. It's not a long piece of work at all, and in fact we often hear that the hardest thing can be getting your writing cut down to meet that requirement, and that's something that you can choose to submit for an August deadline, but there are also various other deadlines across the year, so you choose your deadline. We will just mark it once it's submitted to one of those key deadlines. Really importantly, the certificate in evidence-informed practice is also the first step in our longer-term certification pathway. So if you choose to, you will have the opportunity to continue on and work towards chartered teacher status or chartered teacher leadership status, depending on your role. There are other assessments that you would be able to choose and you would pay for those yourself, but the registration for chartered status is actually included as part of you doing a certificate in evidence-informed practice and your work with EANI. Also included is membership of the Chartered College of Teaching, which gives you access to a whole range of different things, which I will talk about very briefly, but then I'm going to stop and hand over so you can hear a bit more about the course from someone who's experienced it. You would get copies of our journal through your door every term. This has been a really well received journal, really interesting range of different articles, again, from teachers, from academics, from school leaders, from people working in local authorities, all sorts of different ways of different voices for you to hear and to reflect on the practices that are being undertaken in your classroom and in your school. We have a very extensive online platform called My College, which is the home for our members, which has all sorts of different resources, written resources, research summaries, downloadable PDFs, some toolkits, and also a wide range of classroom footage that's been recorded to allow people to look at and reflect on other people's practice and think about what they might draw from that, what they might have suggested or might have done differently. That's me for now. So I'm going to hand now back to the team to hand. Is it back to you that I'm coming, Mary?
Hello, I'm back again. I believe if Lindsay is with us, we're hoping Lindsay is with us.
She was with us. Lindsay, are you there? Just check here, Mary.
She is. I see her. She said she's here, so she's on her way then.
Lindsay, have you signed out and back in again, maybe, perhaps? I'll upgrade you now to presenter again, Lindsay. You must have. Bear with us just a second, folks. I can't see Lindsay here now. She must be having difficulty, Mary. Has she messaged you?
She has put into the chat that she's here, so she must just need presenter status. She's
Yeah,
definitely here.
Right, oh, I see you there, Lindsay.
I signed out and came back.
Ah, Lindsay! You're killing me here. Right, I'll go to people. Bear with me. This is the magic of live webinars, folks. I should record these, shouldn't I, really? But Lindsay, I still can't see you on the list. Maybe at the bottom because you're a guest. Lindsay, can you sign out and back in again, please? I'm not seeing you in my attendee list, so I can't upgrade you at the moment.
Charlotte, Lindsay is listed as Lindsay Murray guest. I don't know if that's any help to you.
I'm looking down the list here, Mary, and I can't see her. Mary, if you can see her there on your attendee list, can you upgrade her? Because she's not appearing on mine.
Mm-hmm.
I see her in chat, but I don't.
One moment.
Microsoft Teams, folks. I should have music to play for such eventualities, but we'll probably put everybody off. Lindsay, you're not in through C2K, are you? No? Can you see yourself now? So if you switch your mic, if you can see yourself on the people. Goodness me. No, I'm seeing L. Bradley, L. Caldwell, L. Graham, L. McIver, L. Rogers.
Charlotte, is it worth allowing everyone to switch on their mic and video and just asking people not to, and then Lindsay can hopefully switch hers on, and others won't?
That's, where are we? Turn on incoming video. So everybody's video should be on now. See, Lindsay's not appearing on my actual list of being here. There's every other guest is.
Are you able to switch on your video now, Lindsay, now that everyone can, and see if that helps?
Not an option. Lindsay, you're not in through C2K, are you? If you just put that in the chat. Don't know why you're coming up as a guest. Saying unknown user. Lindsay, can you sign out again and come back in, please? To see if I can see you appear. Sorry, everyone, for this.
Do you think if we can't, if Lindsay doesn't manage to, if maybe Kat could give us some feedback on what other people have said who have done the certificate?
Kat, if you can do that now, I'll try and work with Lindsay here and get her able to present.
100%, and I've had a couple of questions pop through in the chat as well, which I'm really happy to respond to. And I know Lindsay would hopefully have said all sorts of nice things. Hopefully we'll still be able to say all sorts of nice things. We've had incredibly positive feedback from the Certificate in Evidence Informed Practice. We've only been running it as a programme for just over a year, and initially it was focused particularly on teachers, and we've then added in further leadership content as well to make it applicable to a wider range of people. And we've had incredibly positive feedback, both in terms of people enjoying it as a learning experience, but also people being able to take learning from that back to their classrooms and ultimately make change to practice, which we know is something that's absolutely crucial when we think about CPD. It's not just about learning for the sake of it, although that's absolutely valuable in its own right. It's about us being able to reflect on what we do and ultimately making a change for the children and young people that we work with. One of the questions that I was asked, which is a really good question, was how long it might take to achieve chartered teacher status. Really interesting, because this is actually something that we have very recently, just in the last 4 months, made some changes to. Previously, you had to work towards chartered teacher status over quite a short period of time. You had about sort of 12 to 15 months where you would be working fairly continuously through a series of assessments. We heard that people wanted more flexibility with the many brilliant. Sorry, lost my presenter rights briefly. What we heard from that was that actually we needed to make it more flexible. So we have broken chartered teacher status down into sort of 5 different activities that people do, one of which is the Certificate in Evidence Informed Practice. And you can choose to do those as quickly or over as long time as you want, really. So the shortest it would take usually would be about a year if you really did every assessment back to back. But for many people, it would be 2 to 3 years would be a normal period of time over which to work towards chartered teacher status or chartered teacher leadership status. The 2 pathways are quite similar, but have slightly different assessments to recognise the different roles and contexts that you might be working in. We've just had our first sort of group who are starting on this new, more flexible model, starting their programmes from January. So it's really exciting to see how that works. One thing that's also worth mentioning is that we do also try to recognise other certification, other qualifications that you might already have. So if any of you have done, for example, a master's programme within the last 5 years in education, you would be able to bring some credits from that towards your chartered teacher status as well. It would mean that you don't have to do one of the units of assessment, and there are some other things that we recognise as well. So there are ways to bring in the expertise and the learning that you've already done elsewhere. The certificate itself is included and funded for you, as well as membership being funded for you by EANI, and the registration for chartered status, the initial registration for that, is funded for you. The exact costs then depend on which units you want to do. You have essentially sort of another 4 units you would need to do, and the costs between those, the cost for those sort of vary from about £79 for a unit up to about £150 for a unit, depending on which particular assessments you choose, and some of the assessments are bigger than others. But it should be possible, if you were doing it completely self-funded without the input that you're actually getting from EA&I, you could get chartered status for about £600 over the course of time, and you pay that gradually over time. For you, of course, it will be cheaper because elements of that are already funded for you. Question, I think, for you, Mary, about how many funded places there are.
We would at this minute in time, if you're interested and you're here today, you should get a place. But we do know that a significant number of people registered and didn't manage to attend. So we'll have to see what sort of response we get, but certainly we can hopefully accommodate everyone who's here today. We are also hoping to have this as an initial step. So if we will look into whatever we can do to support people down the line to achieve chartered status, in terms of funding, without making any promises at this early stage. So thank you for that, Kat. Thanks. I think, unless there are any further questions, can I pass on to Jarlath then?
I think we've struck out with Lindsay, just unfortunately. I'm not sure what the problem is. It's the first time I've encountered that, but I'm going to have to try and see if there's a fix for that. Everybody, if anyone in your school missed today, we will be sending the recording out to you all tomorrow morning, along with the actual link to sign up. Now I'm going to put the link in now into the chat. So that's a sign up link for access to the Chartered College teaching. There we are. No, that's the wrong copy and paste, Jarlath. Okay. I will put it in now, and everybody can sign up as soon as possible. So there it's live. So application for the professional learning opportunity is there now. If anybody, once again, has any questions about TPL Thursdays or wants to get involved, next week's session is on self-esteem and well-being, and that is Stephanie Rush from Sacred Heart College in Omagh. That should be a great session, and it's both primary school and post-primary school relevant. And if anyone wants to present a session or suggest a session that we should do, please do that and get in touch. Thank you to Mary, to Kat, and unfortunately Lindsay did not make an appearance, but she was here in spirit anyway, and certainly here in the chat. And hopefully we'll see you all again very soon, and you avail of the fantastic opportunity that the Chartered College are giving you. Thank you very much, and I'll see you all very soon.
Thanks. Thank you, Kat. Thank you, Jarlath. And thank you, Lindsay.